Okay, want to do another little follow-up on the RV. I want to talk about tires. So this is an 89 Holiday Rambler. Tire size 235, 85, 16, or R16. So if you look at it, and this is upside down, so you'll have to forgive me. LT. LT generally stands for a load-bearing tire, or it's generally, that might not be the exact phrasing, but it's generally a heavier duty tire, usually multi-ply. The 235, that is the width, 85 is the height, R16 is rim size 16, so these are 16-inch tires. Now, when you have a vehicle, and this vehicle has dual tires on the back axle, so that's two tires supporting the weight of the back axle. And if you look at the front tire, single tire at front, two in the back. Generally, tires really close up front. You have the engine on top of it, that's a lot of weight. But these two back tires are holding the entire weight of at least the middle point over there, a halfway point in between the two tires, all the way to the back. So there is a lot of weight back here. Arguably, there's more weight on the back tires. But with dual tires like this, and this is a Class A, it's 26 foot. It's got a little bit of a factory-made basket back there to hold generators. Coolers, stuff like that. Now, generally, when you have dual tires on the back and you have a large vehicle like a Class A, or even I would say a large van or truck, when you put weight on it and you drive, the two back tires give you a little bit more control and stability. Think of it kind of like the difference between a bicycle and a tricycle. The extra tire gives you a little extra support, helps to prevent a little bit of sway. It helps a little bit. Now, when you're looking at tires, I believe these tires, I might be wrong, and I'll go around the labeling while I'm talking. See what they have: a max load 3,042 pounds, max load dual 2778. And I'm gonna see, there might be the year on here, I just don't see it. I think I saw a 2008. So it's 2023, 2008. Tires are getting pretty old. So what, 15 years? Math might be wrong. But tires here do not look like they're really dry rotted. But with tires this old, I would be very scared to take it out. I'd feel comfortable probably taking it maybe 30, 50 miles to a tire shop, get it swapped. With tire shops, you're gonna have issues trying to find places that'll work on it. An average car shop will not work on an RV. You might have to go to a trucker stop or a place that specializes in RV. There's always a premium for work like that. So I do recommend, if you can, if you have the time, learn a bit of this yourself. You could easily, if you're wanting to save a good bit of money, you could pull the rim off, take the rim and the tire somewhere, get it mounted, and then get it balanced, come back and put it on. With old bolts like this, I would always recommend putting some type of anti-siege. Anti-siege is a lubricant with copper filings in it. At least that's how it was last time I've used it. It's been a few years since I've ever touched it. They might have switched to graphite, but it used to be a copper and some type of oil-based product. You'd put it on the bolts. Generally with bolts, these aren't that badly rusted, but they get a little bit of surface rust. After I'd pull something off, I'd probably hit it with a wire brush, and I'd probably put a little anti-siege on. Anti-siege is going to allow you to bout the bolts off later, 5-10 years, up to 5-10 years later, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier. It's going to prevent the bolt from rusting underneath. It's going to allow you to back it off. But what I want to show you is, even though that back tire looks good, it's 15 years old. This back tire over here has had weight on it, even though it's probably a greater amount of weight than the front, arguably. This tire has started to, guess what, separate. Now, it is holding air. That means the belt in the inner tube is still sound, But with a separation like this, I would not feel comfortable to drive this. I would feel comfortable enough probably to drive this onto a trailer or to get it pulled onto a trailer. But if this got up to any type of speed, even a few miles an hour, it's going to blow. It's not safe. You're going to have to check your tires. Even if your tires have plenty of tread, you're going to look for dry rot. You're probably going to want to look, see if there's any type of tread separation. And if you could see on this tread separation down here, you can't, it's not even separating from the outside, it's separating from the first rung in. And some of the belts are torn, so it's even less stable than I thought. Now if we come around to this other side, I'm gonna go to the back one first. This back tire still looks good. Now, I wouldn't feel too comfortable driving it, but like I said, after I've checked the pressure and given it a full inspection around, move the vehicle forward a few feet, and then check what it looks like on the bottom. If the bottom, sitting like that for a little while, does not have like any type of flat spot where you can tell the belt's definitely bent. If there's any type of flat spot on the tire after it's been sitting a while, you got to get rid of it. It means the belt's either settled or it's been structurally compromised due to the weight. Sometimes cars can sit forever. My father has a military Jeep. It's got like 10 ply tires on it, dated back in the mid 40s, early 50s, and the thing sat up for 40 years before he got it running, and his tires still look good. They're a little dry rotted, but they're more rubber than anything else. He still takes those off road, but he will not put them on a highway. He won't go above a couple miles an hour on it. It's mainly just for backwood trails only. There are some exceptions, but they are definitely not the rule. If you see a flat spot on a tire, if it's been sitting for a while, I probably wouldn't feel very comfortable about it. I did do tires. I have done a lot of tire warranty. I don't want to get sued because all tires are not created equally. I have noticed that tires from China, produced in China, when I used to do tires, at one point we were seeing a 1 in 20 defect rate. I just don't want to say the brand. I don't want people to come after me for that. Do your research. You're not going to find many tires that are made in America. There are a couple. I would say generally Mexican tires, from what I've seen, they can be pretty good. I think there might be one or two Canadian tire companies. I'm not going to say. I think they have a fairly good quality. I would just avoid things from China. Anything from maybe Taiwan, you might be. I'm trying to think if Taiwan makes any. I can't think of any brands, but I've just seen a lot of bad. I've had a lot of bad luck with tires out of China when I used to do tires and tire warranties. Now these are Michelin. Yeah, Michelin is a good brand. The only issue with these tires is they've been sitting up with a lot of weight on them. Michelin, it's more of a premium tire, I would describe it as. I'm not going to say it's the best tire, but in some of their lineup, like I said, I haven't really done tires in a while. In some of their lineup, they do give a little bit of a quieter road noise. I think my favorite brand probably is BF Goodwrench. I don't know if they've moved factories recently or not. I've had pretty good luck with BF Goodwrench. That's generally what I like to go with. But when you have weight over here, as you can see, the second tire has started to delaminate as well, around the same place. So not even on the outside. So you do need to check. You do have a front tire. You do want to cut the wheel a little bit, look at it. Now, if you have your vehicle sitting up for any amount of time, and the vehicle's probably over 2 or 3 years old, give your tires an inspection before you take a long trip. Listen, your life is worth more than 15 minutes of a quick look, move it forward a few feet, check the bottom as well. You need to practice safety, and tires do have to be replaced even if they still have a good bit of tread. Heck, you can make these tires into a tire swing if you wanted to keep them. If you have a pond, I know some environmentalists might hit me, you can also use them as fish beds. They do pretty good. As fish beds, places for fish to brood, especially something like brim that we have in the south. Another thing I want to mention, fix-a-flat. I don't know if these tires have fix-a-flat in them, but I do know some people will be proactive and put fix-a-flat in a tire. Now, fix-a-flat has a couple of issues. These are steel rims, which means, guess what? Steel can rust, aluminum can corrode. Generally, steel, if you dent it, you can hammer it back in with a sledgehammer, and you can just roll in your merry business after you've hammered it out a little bit. If you get a nasty little bend in a rim. If it doesn't crack, you see a crack, you got to toss the rim, buy a new one. Now, fix-a-flat is mildly corrosive. So if you had fix-a-flat sitting in a tire like this, you're going to want to check, because it might tear off the paint on the inside of the rim, and it might start eating into the metal and compromise the rim, so it might not hold tire or hold weight. And if it's long enough, a decade or two, the rim might just need to be replaced because the corrosion, the pitting, it might not hold a balance well. There's just a lot of issues with fix-a-flat. I'll be honest, when I used to do tires, fix-a-flat made patching a tire almost impossible, because it would still leave residue after you wiped it out. You try to put a patch on it, and the patches I used to do would be, you'd have the inside of the tire, you would Dremel out a square in the middle of where that hole was. You'd put a plug through the outside, or through the inside or outside. You trim it. You would grind or Dremel that down. You apply a backer patch, usually about an inch or two big backer, with some rubber cement. Now those hold really well. If you can get that type of patch, those are really good. Word of warning though is how far over, if I was doing those type of patches myself, would I be comfortable patching a tire? I would say probably to about here. Most shops will not go past the outermost tread, and you can only get that little center fixed. When you get over here, you get a lot of flexing in your tire tread. That flexing can cause friction. It can cause the tire to leak out, and possibly fast, possibly a blowout. But in general, you always want your new tires on the front. If you can't afford getting replacement tires, this is on a car as well. You want your new tires on the front, because guess what the front is? The front is where you steer from. So as a safety method, if you're only doing 2 tires at a time, I don't recommend that. I always do the front on the back, move the back to the front. But these tires definitely need new front tires. Back tires are old. You could probably get some miles out of them. Me personally, I wouldn't feel too comfortable with it, but they probably are doable. But definitely this vehicle cannot be driven more than a few feet, or at any speed other than maybe loading on the trailer, without getting new tires on this thing. Just giving you a little heads up on that. Also plying, like the LT starting limit, load bearing tires. Like I said, it might not stand exactly for load bearing tires. It's been a couple of years since I've dealt with tires, but generally you want a high ply tire. If you have a car, you know, your low ply passenger grade tires, those are fine. They're going to absorb road noise very well. The more plies you get, the stiffer the tire is going to be, but also the more weight it can bear. Now, the more weight it can bear is generally the safer. So 8-10 ply tire, I'd feel comfortable with an 8 or 10 ply on these. Something that have a similar weight limit. And then also when you rotate, a lot of times rotation on tires like this with a dual axle, generally people will go front to back. So you put one of the front tires on the back. Now there's a couple ways to do it. Sometimes you'll cross. You can take the outside one, move it to the front, or you could, generally what you want to do is you want your tire spinning in the same direction. So I have seen some charts back in the early 2000s where you might take this tire, move it up to the front passenger. I don't like that. When I went through training, and I went through some car shows in the past and some demonstrations, generally a lot of the people that were pretty big on cars, and an engineer or two I talked to, said they like to keep tires running in the same direction because of belt slippage. With modern tire design, I don't know how much of that's an issue. and I don't know if it's even anything to worry about. But how would I rotate these tires? I would rotate the front one if these are all new and it was time for a tire rotation. I'd rotate the front to the back, probably on the most inside, depends on the tire wear. Generally, you might want the more wear on the outside so you can see it and watch it a little bit more. Move one of the tires up to the front and then do the rotation that way. There are ways, like I said, the diagonal, the cross rotations. I'm not a fan of those. I usually like keeping tires on the same side. So on the driver's side, left side, I'd like to keep all the left side tires on this way because they're all going in this direction when they're rolling. And that way there's no belt slippage. I know belt slippage, I don't know how much of a controversial topic it is now, but I know it was something that was always brought up when I used to do tires back in the mid 2000s. So that's what I wanted to convey here. I know I have been a little long and rambly, and I thank you for sticking with me. Now, this isn't the usual content of this channel. However, we will do additional RV and vehicle related upgrades and repairs. I do plan on building out a Class B RV out of a Chevy G20 in the near future, so stick tuned if you want to see that. But thank you for watching Dope Fish Productions. Y'all have a good afternoon, a good day, good night. Take care, and until next time, goodbye.